Hello and welcome, friends. I have for you today the famous play Macbeth. The full title of this play is The Tragedy of Macbeth, written by one and only one, William Shakespeare. The play is thought to have been first performed in 1606. It dramatizes the political ambition of those who seek power for their own sake. Of all the plays that Shakespeare wrote during the reign of James I, who was the patron of Shakespeare's acting company, Macbeth most clearly reflects the playwright's, or you could say the writer's, relationship with his sovereign. It was first published in 1623, possibly from a prompt book, and is Shakespeare's shortest tragedy. Some famous quotes of Macbeth by the Weird sisters are double, double, toil and trouble, fire burn, and cauldron bubble. And the second one that I remember is fair is foul and foul is fair. Vishal Bharadwaj's movie Maqbool is an adaptation of the play Macbeth. And then you have another very famous quote of Macbeth that goes as follows. By the pricking of my thumbs, something wicked this way comes. By the second witch in the play. In fact, the three sisters are the three witches in this. Friends, Macbeth has a sinister plot. A brave Scottish general named Macbeth receives a prophecy from a witch trio that one day he will become the King of Scotland. Driven by ambition and spurred to action by his wife, Macbeth murders King Duncan and occupies the Scottish throne. He is then racked with guilt and paranoia, forced to commit more and more murders to protect himself from enmity and suspicion. He soon becomes a tyrannical ruler. The bloodbath and consequent civil war swiftly take Macbeth and Lady Macbeth into the realms of madness and death. Shakespeare's source for the story is the account of Macbeth, King of Scotland, Macduff, and Duncan in Holinshed's Chronicles of 1587, a history of England, Scotland, and Ireland, familiar to Shakespeare and his contemporaries. In the backstage world of theatre, some believe that the play is cursed and do not mention its title aloud, referring to it instead as the Scottish play. Over the course of many centuries, the play has attracted some of the most renowned actors to the roles of Macbeth and Lady Macbeth. It has been adapted to film, television, opera, novels, comics, and even other medias. Three witches tell the Scottish general Macbeth that he will one day be the King of Scotland. Prompted by his wife, Macbeth kills the king, becomes the new king, and kills more out of paranoia. Civil war erupts to overthrow Macbeth, resulting in more deaths. On a bleak Scottish moorland, Macbeth and Banquo, two of King Duncan's generals, discover three strange women. You could say they are the witches, in fact. The witches prophesy that Macbeth will be promoted twice, once to the Thane of Cawdor, a rank of the aristocracy bestowed by grateful kings, and second as the King of Scotland. But then there is a caution, and the caution is only Banquo's descendants will be further kings, and where Banquo isn't promised any kingdom himself. The generals want to hear more, but the weird sisters, the witches, disappear. Soon afterwards, King Duncan names Macbeth Thane of Cawdor as a reward for his success in the recent battles. The promotion seems to support the prophecy. The king then promises to make a brief visit that night to Macbeth's castle at Inverness. Lady Macbeth receives news from her husband about the prophecy and his new title. She vows to help him become king by whatever means possible and necessary. Macbeth returns to his castle, followed almost immediately by King Duncan. The Macbeths plot together to kill Duncan and wait until everyone is asleep. At the appointed time, Lady Macbeth gives the guards drugged wine so that Macbeth can enter and kill the king. But he regrets the act almost immediately. But his wife reassures him. She leaves the bloody daggers by the side of the dead king just before Macduff, a nobleman, arrives. When Macduff discovers the murder, Macbeth kills the drunken guards in a show of rage and retribution. Duncan's son Malcolm and Donalbain flee, fearing for their own lives, but they are nevertheless blamed for the murder. Macbeth becomes the king of Scotland but is plagued by feelings of insecurity. He remembers the prophecy that Banquo's descendants will inherit the throne and arranges for Banquo and his son Fleance to be killed. In the darkness, Banquo is murdered, but his son escapes the assassins. At his state banquet that night, Macbeth sees the ghost of Banquo and worries the courtiers with his mad response. Lady Macbeth dismisses the court and unsuccessfully tries to calm her husband. The witches still prophesy that the Scottish succession will come to Banquo's son only. Macbeth embarks on a reign of terror, slaughtering many, including Macduff's family. Macduff goes to see Malcolm, one of Duncan's sons, who had fled at the court of the English king. Malcolm is young and unsure of himself, but Macduff, pained with grief, persuades him to lead an army against Macbeth. Macbeth looks on for the witches, who say that he will be safe until the local wood by the name of Burnham marches into the battle against him. Finally, the wood of Burnham from Perthshire, Scotland, comes to Dunsinane, Macbeth's castle. Macbeth feels safe in his remote castle at Dunsinane until he is told that now Burnham wood is moving towards him. Malcolm's army is carrying branches from the forest as camouflage for their assault on Macbeth's stronghold. Meanwhile, an overwrought and conscience-ridden Lady Macbeth walks in her sleep and tells her secrets to her doctor. She then commits suicide. As the final battle commences, Macbeth hears the Lady Macbeth's suicide and mourns. In the battle, Macbeth chops violently, but the English forces gradually overwhelm his army and castle. On the battlefield, Macbeth encounters the vengeful Macduff, who declares that he is not of woman born, but was instead untimely ripped from his mother's womb, what we now call by caesarean section. Though he realizes that he is doomed, Macbeth continues to fight until Macduff kills and beheads him. Malcolm, now the King of Scotland, declares his benevolent intentions for the countries and invites all to see him crowned at Scone in Scotland. So friends, that was the tragedy of Macbeth in brief. In life, watch your intentions, for they decide your journey of life. Just in case you've not read this play in your college, try and read it now. It's very interesting. And for now, goodbye and see you soon.